So, as I get to that, there's a context within which CDF was created. When Kibaki came into office, there was need to ensure that every part of the country got access to the national cake, as we called it then. And so CDF made sense at that point.
Okay.
But in 2010, when we then promulgated the Constitution, what we did is with the 47 devolved units, we had a way that every single corner of this country would actually get revenue from the national government, and it would be allocated to them on a publicly available formula in which we would share that revenue. It is at that point that we then should have phased out CDF, because Schedule 4 of the Constitution, and that's why it was ruled unconstitutional, sets out national government functions and devolved government functions. The devolved functions are funded by the taxpayer. The national government functions are funded by the taxpayer. And it is expected that these functions will be carried out by these two separate levels of government separately and funded. So when we again introduce another level of funding, say CDF or the Ward Development Fund or the Senate Oversight Fund, we are creating another level of funding and use of taxpayers' money that was not envisaged in the Constitution.
In fact, just to add on to that point, perhaps, and maybe it might gel into that, in its verdict at the Supreme Court, the court found that the law allowing members of parliament to manage funds offends the Division of Revenue and Public Finance law.
Exactly. Exactly, because there is already a law on how we do division of revenue, and that law sets out national government and devolved government. So when we are creating another level of funding, we are essentially robbing the taxpayer and going against the tenets of the very Constitution. Now, remember that the Senate, beyond just impeachment motions, the Senate also looks at all the money bills. Any bill that has a monetary implication must go through the Senate. That's about 70–80% of the bills that are passed in this country have a monetary implication. So the Senate has a lot more responsibility than just the impeachment motions. The reports from the Auditor General, from the Controller of Budgets, those reports go through the Senate. Those reports are the basis upon which they hold their respective county governments accountable. When there are audit queries in County X, that audit query is brought to the Senate. The senator of that particular county has now the mandate and all the necessary data and information to hold that governor accountable on that premise. So I think that the Senate Oversight Fund and any other fund that you want to create for the legislative arm of this government would be unconstitutional, but also two, it would be it will be one of the ways in which the executive, led by the president, will be trying to have the legislator in their pockets. This president has told us time and again that he wants the legislator to do their job, the opposition to do their job. But everything that he is doing and saying sends a different signal. He asks those who are independent candidates to cross over to his side. He now wants, this is a bribery attempt, I mean, to be a bit more sensational. It is a bribery attempt to bribe the Senate, bribe the National Assembly by telling them we will find a way of reintroducing the CDF, which has been declared unconstitutional. When you bribe these people, then they are on your side, then they do not do their oversight role as the nominated member of parliament here is saying. If they don't do that nominated role, then the government can get away with anything. Again, going back to where the legislature is the weakest arm in our democracy, taking us there.
I'm sure Irene will perhaps want to respond to that and dissent to that view. I want to believe Dennis